Many a member did not read the minister's statement. In fact, the subtitles I am offering in my rejoinder are picked from the minister's statement. I can confirm they don't read it.
You respond to the minister's statement.
And I'm surprised that they are supplying a diversion to this house. Each of these subtitles is picked from the minister's statement.
You respond to the minister's statement.
Yeah, and I would like members to really pay attention. And I'm trying to look for the source of the discomfort, and I'm not getting it. Speaker.
Please go ahead and read it. You tell them the page where you're
trying to remind members that the subtitle I was handling is titled Detecting Registration Number Plates of Vehicles in Security Missions, because the minister said that the public is duty bound to detect and report car number plates. And I am reporting a serious disability to the public in detecting this car number plates. Is that an import? It's not an import. So, Honourable Speaker, I am responding in very strict terms so that the House can understand the factors under which the minister's demands over the public are improbable and out of space. Honourable Speaker, the BBC documentary entitled 3 Killings in Kampala clearly showed clues on the police vehicle that was involved in the murders along Kampala Road in the Central Business District, which is dotted with cameras. If the security cared to apprehend the crew on UP 99917, it was upon them to rely on the CCTV footage to trace the movement of this particular vehicle. The police have the capacity and infrastructure to revisit the CCTV records of November 18th to 20th to detect the route of the killer patrol cited in this documentary. I am privy to the fact that, Honourable Speaker, the same security operatives heavily relied on these CCTV records to trace for suspected protesters, as well as crack down on MOOP activists who would later on be disappeared by drones. It is therefore deliberate that security does not track its own errant personnel despite the presence of CCTV equipment to do so. The last time we checked on the killer patrol, UP 99917 was stationed at Katwe Police Station in Kampala. The Internal Affairs Minister should be able to effectively use this information. Honourable Speaker, alleged uncooperative attitude of relatives of the missing victims. Honourable Speaker, the government indicates that their recently deployed team of detectives disguised themselves as an NGO to retrieve information from relatives of the missing persons. The minister did not satisfactorily delve into the ingredients of what their intelligence NGO obtained from the bereaved families of the missing 18. The details of the identity of the NGO are a mystery, and so is the said report, which I would so wish to be tabled before Parliament, Honourable Speaker. The people have always been free to share information, their despair and the agony they are going through in search of their beloved ones, to the extent of visiting the perpetrators at CMI, international bodies like the defunct UNHRC, State House, political party offices, and UNHRC. In the course of seeking redress, Honourable Speaker, they have shared confidential documents and even spoke to the media. I invited the House to follow the documentary, The Missing 18, authored by my office, and I have also attached video evidence to ascertain the existence of these families and their willingness to testify to their missing loved ones. Honourable Speaker, prosecuting errant officers. The government has been deliberately declining to prosecute errant security officers who commit atrocities, but instead elevates them in rank. Because, Honourable Speaker, this response is in part to respond to the minister stating that they have been acting on their errant officers. And we are saying not at all. Instead, they have been promoting them and by doing so, promoting impunity. For instance, former Masaka RPC Enoch Abaine, who shot and injured the journalist Arasef Kashidi, was transferred and promoted to the environmental police in Luzira. The same Abaine is known to be a Ritho with blood stains in his hands. During the 2017 age limit rally held in Rukongiri, Abaine allegedly shot a 19-year-old man. Instead of being interdicted and apprehended for his deeds, he was in 2018 transferred to Mackay University and promoted to Chief Security Officer. The famous 2011 walk-to-work-based Tormenta, Inaitwe Gilbert, was promoted from ASP to Superintendent of Police. Honourable Speaker, as a highlight. Honourable Speaker, the command of the infamous Kasese killings, the one Peter Ruel, was elevated from brigadier to general, and even sits comfortably with us in Parliament. Honourable Speaker, CMI Captain Ewan Bashir Mango, who in January 2022 shot and caused the leg amputation of a traffic police officer, Robert Mukebes, remains at large, and the EPDF is hesitant in prosecuting him. In fact, the defense spokesperson, Brigadier Fred Kulaiji, said they were unable to track down Captain Mango. She remains at large. As an example, Honourable Speaker, as to how impunity is promoted, the ministers claim that the police driver of truck number UP 4841, Constable number 39975, Mr. Aktil Nasasira, was apprehended at baseless, as none of the relatives of Rita Nabukenya, who the minister named Nabukela, was informed as required by principles of law and natural justice. The people who witnessed the accident were not interrogated for statements. Police did not go to Malago Hospital, where the deceased's remains were conveyed. Nabukenya's death was a matter of public interest that should have attracted ample press coverage, but there is no record of the said arrest of Atikulu Nasasira. Right, Honourable Speaker, that family never received the information. They remain agitated that the police government neglected their plea to apprehend the killer of their daughter. Right, Honourable Speaker, pre-trial detention. Detention has become synonymous with the NRM government, Right, Honourable Speaker, especially whenever an opposition political activist or Muslim terror suspect is arrested. We established the reason behind these prolonged detentions is to enable the torture victims to have ample time for their physical injuries to heal. We evidenced this in the case of our NUP supporter in Kasese, Samuel Masereka, and of course exiled Ugandan novelist Kakwenza. When their wounds sustained from torture recover, they are presented in court. Though the government report attributes pre-trial detention to the limited human resource in the judiciary, it is illogical and deceitful. We have witnessed situations where high-profile cases involving ministers and government officials that were cited in the Karamoja Unishit saga speedily tried. Yet the same criminal justice system has many times tried the opposition activists after spending more than 48 hours in police custody and safe houses. For instance, Damshid Kavumani's colleagues, who were abducted on November 6, 2022, were lined in Mwanga 2 court a month later in December 2022, after a writ of habeas corpus was filed compelling security officers at CMI to panic and drop him at Old Kampala police station. Allegedly, Right Honourable Speaker, a one Swaiman Jakana Naduli was detained in September 2022 at Makindi military barracks for a prolonged period prior to his alignment in court in Nakaseke. The detention, according to his family members, deprived him of access to his specialized medication, which eventually caused his death. Right Honourable Speaker, our findings established that 12 of the persons who were reported missing were arrested on suspicion of having committed several offenses and were either released on police bond or court bail. UHR stated in their report, we are quoting now the UHR report, that was equivocal in their findings. We also informed the House that the UHRC chairperson, Ms. Mariam Wangadia, is on record disclosing her fears and insecurity after asserting that her colleagues carry firearms to in-house meetings. Right, Honourable Speaker and honourable members, how do we be convinced that an insecure chairperson is in the right state of mind to investigate other people's rights violations when her own rights are in contention? Right, Honourable Speaker, custody. There are dozens of political prisoners languishing in custody on charges that the state has deliberately failed to conclude due to inadequate evidence. For example, Olivia Lutaya and dozens of opposition NUP supporters are still facing off with the court-martial despite a 2021 Constitutional Court ruling that annulled such trials. On 15th December 2022, Right Honourable Speaker, court ruled that all those persons not subjected to military law and are currently being tried before any military court are ordered that their files be transferred to the civil courts under the direction of the DPP, Right Honourable Speaker. This directive has, however, been disregarded to date, with political prisoners continuously facing an endless trial and all their bail attempt thwarted, despite presenting substantial sureties, who include blood relatives and credible leaders. We call on the Minister of Justice to explain to the country why the General Court Martial is contemptuous to the Constitutional Court ruling on trial of civilians. I refer the House to the Constitutional Court Petition number 44 of 2015, retired Captain Amos Byarugaba and others versus the Attorney General, Right Honourable Speaker. I have attached that ruling, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, I bring to your attention the fact that dozens of NUP supporters who merely wore a party red beret have been subjected to a lengthy pre-trial detention at the hands of the court-martial without any incriminating evidence. But on the other hand, ADF suspects, Jamil Mukulu, alleged to have killed dozens of students at Kiwamba Technical Institute in 1988, and Abud Rashid Shoto, alias Sinjovu, alleged to have killed tourists at Queen of the National Park, are facing trial in civilian courts, Right Honourable Speaker. Is this duplicity? If not miscarriage of justice, Right Honourable Speaker, what should we describe this to be? For a criminal justice system to subject NUP supporters exercising their political right to a court-martial on one hand, and try ADF terror suspects in a civilian court on the other hand. Right Honourable Speaker, detention without trial. Of government prison, Right Honourable Speaker, Mr. Johnson Bashaija, recently decried the influx of prisoners on remand that have overwhelmed the prison system, prison service cells. According to the UPS, out of the 76,367 inmates, 39,453 are convicts, while 36,422 are on remand, cutters of detention without trial. The law clearly stipulates that prisoners should spend at most 180 days on remand, an equivalent of 6 months. But unfortunately, the majority of inmates, including NUP supporters, illegally under court-martial, have spent more than that time. I will symbolically, Right Honourable Speaker, cite Abudu Matovu, who was abducted from his workplace in Kampala in 2020. His mother, Ewan Nakabuye Hadija, and father, Mwalimu Kabibu Kenya, resident of Bukana village in Nakagongo Parish, Matete Sub-County in Sembabule District, revealed that their son is rotting in Kitalia prison without undergoing any trial. Right Honourable Speaker, since 2020. Right Honourable Speaker, institutionalized Islamophobia. Right Honourable Speaker, the Minister says the Ugandan prison service statistics reflect 16.4% of Muslim inmates, 29.5% Protestants, and 43.1% Catholics, which is obvious given the numerical setup of Christian faith, even the national census figures. But our area of concern, Right Honourable Speaker, is the deliberate campaign to depict Muslims as usual treason and terror suspects each time there is a high-profile murder. I am much alive to the fact that Most suspects with the pending cases at the High Court, International Crimes Division, are Muslims, right, Honourable Speaker. There have also been persistent raids on madrasa schools, notably Imam Raida Islamic School in Buloba in 2023, and the Kamoga Home Rehabilitation Center, where heavily armed security officers were filmed torturing Muslim minors in 2023, among others. Right, Honourable Speaker, without necessarily having to belabor the House, I have provided a chronology on page 15 of assassinated sheikhs without killers identified or tried successfully. Right, Honourable Speaker. Right, Honourable Speaker, page 16 offers this clear chronology of sheikhs and imams that have been killed, and at every moment the immediate suspects are Muslims. It is worth noting that in all these cases, the courts have not convicted any single individual. Right, Honourable Speaker.
There's a procedure.
Thank you. In response to what the Minister said, with regard to identification of the kidnapping or offending vehicles, is exactly what the law is explaining. That you cannot, because these people disguise themselves. And I thought it would be a matter of interest for government to know how to get those criminals that probably would be tarnishing the government image. Would it not be procedurally right that you guide colleagues first to listen to this and interrogate the issue? As Honorable Fox-Odoi said, a matter of human rights should actually, the NRM side should be more interested in this than us. Because tomorrow, you are the ones who will be looked at as Idi Amin.
Individuals. When you talk about no, for me, no votes for me. It doesn't vote for no. So those are still my voters. Those are your voters. And you can't know, there is nothing written anywhere that this is a noble person, this is FDC, this is a NRM or whichever. These are Ugandans and human beings, and we are here to represent the people of Uganda. And when we are here, we should learn to speak one word. When we are in this house, and I will tell you, government, we need to promote the rule of law. We need to. Yes.
To assure the House, for example, that in one of the family visits we made, some of the families of missing people are actually NRM supporters. So we are pursuing this without recourse to color or creed. We are only pursuing justice for these families, Right, Honourable Speaker. Right, Honourable Speaker, on page 7, I'm providing cases where high-profile officials were assassinated and the Muslims arrested enemies. I don't have to read through the detail, but I'm quoting in March 7, 2017, the assassination of the former AIGP Andrew Kawes, Felix Kawes.
And members, I want you to know one thing. Most of these things are inherited, because I don't think any of you was in the house in 2017. We're inheriting some of these things, but we must discuss them. Me, I was not here.
I am also quoting the June 2021 attempted assassination of our friend General Katumba Wamala. I'm quoting the September 2018 assassination of ASP Mohamed Chirumira. I am quoting the twin bombings of 2021. Right, Honourable Speaker, I wanted the Minister to understand why we said that there's a targeting of Muslims to which all of us as leaders, we must really have our eyes open and see whether it is really a matter away from our scrutiny. But Honourable Speaker, the UPDF has, out of impunity, continued to terrorize and blatantly torture fishermen in various water bodies, Right, Honourable Speaker. Right, Honourable Speaker, fish is impounded from the fishermen by the military, who in turn make a killing out of it and ultimately enslave the fishing communities. Harassment, and death at the hands of armed personnel have been reported on the lakes. Fishermen are terrorized and their nets seized. They are accused of using particular nets now deemed illegal, yet they are manufactured in Uganda and others are cleared for import. Right Honourable Speaker, ironically, the government knows about the trading of such gears because taxes are levied on them. Parliament has passed numerous resolutions suspending UPDF activities on water bodies as far as the regulation of fisheries is concerned, all in vain. To date, the Fisheries and Aquaculture Act 2022 has not been operationalized and implemented. While the Fisheries and Aquaculture Act 2022 deems UPDF presence of the lakes unlawful, they will disrupt fishing activities and profit from the confiscated fish and fishing gear. That Honourable Speaker, on page 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and the part of 23, I am enlisting names of Ugandans that have either been killed, maimed or drowned in various fishing communities. And this House of Parliament should not be held complicit in these violations. Right Honourable Speaker, I understand that over 80 members of Parliament here represent fishing communities. They are waiting for a voice on these violations that are provided, including names that can be verified with a proper inquest, Right Honourable Speaker. Additionally, that these atrocities have spread nationwide on all national water bodies and landing sites. Further mentions can be made concerning cases of reported from Choga County and Lamb landing sites, Right Honourable Speaker. The names I have mentioned there have suffered at the hands of the military. There is overwhelming evidence showing the wanton and reckless conduct of the UPDF on our national waters. Isn't Parliament interested, Right Honourable Speaker, in investigating the owners and action of the soldiers operating boats with the inscription, "Watch our seme"? Let them talk. Whether they are chasing other fishermen, they are very active. Isn't Parliament interested in understanding who is behind this? The government is neither willing nor interested in investigating the concerns raised here. Institutionally, the bodies that have attempted to tackle issues of human rights violations have continually not delved exhaustively and effectively into the concerns at hand. But Honourable Speaker, the government statement is therefore a replica of past statements on the same. It's not only detached from reality, but also laced with insensitivity and laden with mockery for the bereaved families of the missing victims, and they hereby reject it in its entirety. Now, Right Honourable Speaker, with a heavy heart and a deep sense of responsibility, to address a matter of utmost importance, the protection of human rights within our nation, Right Honourable Speaker, we are here to demand for justice and invite the House to join us. Our shared commitment to justice, equality, and the fundamental dignity of every individual compels us to confront the disturbing reports of human rights violations that have come to light. Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, the reports on abuse of human rights, enforced disappearances and violence are non-partisan. They cannot be ignored and they demand a thorough investigation. Where a sitting government elects to commit or deliberately fails to investigate unspeakable and horrendous actions committed against people by acting extremely intolerant to political dissent and delimiting the civic space as demonstrated herein, the only fortress that remains harboring their hope and trust is the legislature. Let us speak, and colleagues, Parliament serves as a stage where the voices of the oppressed are amplified, where people's representatives refuse to be silent about injustice, and where the struggle for human rights is unfettered, fully expressed, and conclusively pursued without fear or favor. Right Honourable Speaker, precisely that is the feeling and the expectation of the public in the legislature is profound. Protection and promotion of the sanctity of human rights is our cardinal role. It is a clarion call to Parliament to uphold this honour. Honourable members, I humbly submit and implore you to rise to the occasion. As a matter of fact, this 11th Parliament will go down the annals of history as having risen to the occasion when the government turned against her people. Let us go on record as a people who knew what was right and acted in the best interest of the citizenry. Right Honourable Speaker, we therefore demand of the following and the support of the House. 1. Additional release of all political prisoners rotting in numerous jails and illegal detention facilities without trial. Non-trial of these cases is a clear indication of lack of evidence on the side of government and a red flag that these persecutions are intended to shrink the civic space further and criminalize association with the opposition in our country. Honourable Speaker, these are prisoners of conscience that should not be used as a bargaining tool for the ruling party to suffocate civic space and the desire to settle outstanding political questions through these illegal detentions. The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs should explain to the nation under which law the government is charging the citizens with the offence of subversive activities. Honourable Speaker, the Constitution is very clear. You cannot raise an offence that not prescribed by law. I have attacked several charge sheets with the offence of subversive activities, not anywhere on our penal laws. So it's the creation of the government without parliamentary involvement, Honourable Speaker. The offence of subversive activities is non-existent, but several people are rotting in jail on account of the offence of subversive activities, which is not prescribed by law, Honourable Speaker. 2. Establishment of a Judicial Commission of Inquiry. Honourable Speaker, we demand that with the utmost urgency, the formation of a Commission of Inquiry to investigate these glaring human rights violations. We propose that the said Commission of Inquiry be chaired by a judge of the High Court. We believe that the Commission will be endowed with the authority, independence, and resources necessary to uncover the truth, to hold those responsible accountable, and to ensure that justice prevails. Honourable Speaker, our prayer is premised on Section 1 of the Commission of Inquiries Act, which empowers the Minister of Justice to issue a commission appointing one or more commissioners and authorizing those commissioners to inquire into a conduct of any officer in public service of Uganda, the conduct of any chief, the conduct of all management of any department of the public service, all of any public or local institution, or in any matter in which an inquiry would be for the public welfare. Honourable Speaker. In specific terms, we move that the Commission specifically handles the case of the 18 missing persons, the unresolved cases of targeted and slain Muslim clerics, and the infamous November 2020 killings. Honourable Speaker, the extent of suffocation visited on our common peoples require an independent hearing, especially in view of government reluctance and clear disinterest in coming clean and deliberately disabling the wheels of justice several months after these gross violations were reported. We propose that the Commission, among others, considers the role of the security agencies, political leaders, the general state of intolerance during and after the 2021 general elections, and ultimately remedy for the victims and their families. 3. Need for a select committee of Parliament. Honourable Speaker, Rule 190 of the Parliamentary Rules of Procedure empowers Parliament to appoint a select committee to investigate a particular matter. We propose that the said committee investigates the rampant cases of rape, defilement, destruction of property, murders, and justified arrests and illegal closure of many landing sites in the fishing communities across the country, and ultimately remedy for the victims and their families. 4, Right Honourable Speaker, all those persons not subjected to military law, not subject to military law, and are currently being tried before any military court, be transferred to civil courts under the direction of the Director of Public Prosecution as directed by the Constitutional Court in Constitutional Petition number 44 of 2015, retired Captain Amon Biarugaba and others, both as the Attorney General, decided on 15th December 2022 and was never appealed nor stayed. I beg to pray and submit for God and my country.
Thank you so much, Honorable Law. Honorable members, I have listened to the rejoinder of the law. Your documents, then Mr. Kema will look at it. I have listened to the rejoinder of the law, and the rejoinder was in response to the ministerial statement of General Mohosi. The ministerial statement was earlier on a response to the statement from leader of opposition. I therefore don't want to turn this debate into a ping pong. I want to borrow your word. You're the one who used that word, ping pong. I don't want it to be a ping pong between the General Mohosi and then the leader of opposition. We should go straight to the issues that we want to achieve. There are prayers that have been put in place. Let's go straight to the prayers. And I want to retaliate to what Honorable Fox Odoy was saying. We are one house, and whatever we are discussing here is for the good of the people outside there. It is not for a party, not for an individual, and where it requires us to give and take, we will do that. We should be able to do that for the good of the people outside there. I want to now open a minimum, and I'm saying minimum debate.
The beauty about the documents I'm laying is that I am quoting each of them in my statement, so there will be no contradiction or problem in appreciating what they are. The video clips, at your pleasure, you look at them.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Right Honourable Speaker, you guided well and
for the attention of the House, I beg to.
I will review the evidence and report back if it is worthy.
Human rights should be a common good. In the 60s, the people who were complaining about human rights abuses were basically people who were in the opposition. Then it came to the 70s. You had another regime in power. And the people who were being hunted, sometimes even killed, were those who opposed that regime. Then it came to the 80s. Those who complained were actually the ones who were in opposition, more specifically the Democratic Party, and those who were sympathetic to the NRA. In 1996, colleagues, the NRM regime established what we call the Odell Commission to investigate abuses of human rights from independence. For those of you who are familiar with that report, you would know what happened. This is not an era to talk about people disappearing without trace. We shouldn't. This is not a debate we should be having. And I don't want anybody to use this debate as a political spear. to achieve a political purpose. But I don't want anybody also, in my view, to have a political shield, because what eventually becomes a victim are the people of Uganda who are vulnerable. So can we address all the partisan interests in this color and address the issue? And if we do that, really we will live in a better country tomorrow. Why would we start talking politically when somebody else there is complaining about a lost child, a lost son, a lost husband? And I am here calling myself a parent, and I'm not feeling the pain of that parent. I'm not feeling the pain of that child. Colleagues, these are not the issues to joke about. But when a debate like this comes, we are looking for solutions. We are looking for solutions to the challenge. And I would like to thank both sides of the aisle now that we seem to be calm, and let us discuss the solutions to the challenge we may be having. One, in the leader of opposition statement, he's complaining about three things. The first one, which I read, is about pre-detention without trial. Government, what can we do about, what does the law say? Can you detain somebody without trial beyond 48 hours? So where should be the controversy be? Because it is constitutional. Do we have a constitutional order? So that is an area where we should all agree. If there are people who have been detained with trial beyond the constitutionally mandated hours, those governments should undertake to have them released unconditionally. And if they committed offense, however grave the offense is, then they will be subjected to the due process of the law. What distinguishes civilized societies, colleagues, is us acting within the law and uncivilized people acting outside the law. That's what distinguishes us. So that should not be an issue for even Right Honourable Speaker, for us to debate, and even our emotions rise high. Two, I see the Right Honourable Lop suggesting that there should be a judicial commission of inquiry. I have had the opportunity to look at the law. That is a prerogative of the government. Let them examine what is here, and if it warrants, then they have that opportunity. Because, Right Honourable Speaker, we cannot as Parliament resolve to create a judicial commission of inquiry because of the constitutional limitations we have. It would require resources, and once it is resources, then you cannot do it because it offends the Constitution. So, let the government listen and then say, well, in the circumstances, does this matter require a judicial commission of inquiry or not? Three, the Right Honourable Leader of Opposition is suggesting to set up a select committee. We shouldn't have regrets in our own committees. We already have a committee on human rights. It's already in place. It's only under circumstances where we don't have a committee specifically provided for that we can resort to ad hoc and select committees. As of now, Right Honourable Speaker, colleagues, let us have faith in our own committees which are in place. Because that's what the rules say. These matters can be handled by the Human Rights Committee, and then we can report. We don't have to be every other time establishing commissions of select committees. That means we have no faith within our own committee. In any case, Right Honourable Speaker, where are you going to get these members who are not from this committee? If you don't have faith in them, in these ones who are here, and they all belong to different committees. So are we going to get members outside? And the people who are on these committees actually were designated by both sides. We have committees in place which can discuss and investigate these matters which are still pending. We don't have to be establishing another select committee. Right, Honourable Speaker, there is this other issue which if there are I see compensation on page 3. What should be the problem? I thought the government had already taken that decision. I don't know why we're even debating. Because the president came out clear that if there are people who lost their lives unlawfully, then government is going to compensate their families. So the issue is, have those been compensated or not? And if they have not been compensated, then the government should undertake to follow up what His Excellency the President promised the country. We don't have to be debating so much about whether they should be compensated or not. Did they lose their lives unfairly during the riots? If they did, then they can be compensated in accordance with the law. And government has already taken a stand on that.
Honourable members, I've listened keenly and carefully. The rejoinder shared belatedly by the Honourable Leader of Opposition. Right Honourable Speaker and Honourable members, about the rejoinder of the Honourable Leader of Opposition, and to show the seriousness of government, we had the courtesy even to listen to the new things he brought in his rejoinder, because we take seriously the matter of human rights. That said, I want to still maintain, Right Honourable Speaker and Honourable members, and to stick to our response, which was honest, elaborate, and detailed. And it even left avenues for remedy for those who felt unsatisfied by that response, in anticipation. And those remedies are known to the law. Lope said that time, and I quote, he asked whether we feel pain and are alive, and if we feel for others and are human. I want to restate here that we are both and even more. We do, however, even have the obligation as government to protect and preserve human rights as enjoined by the Constitution of Uganda. In other words, it is our call. If I may, my colleagues will help on specifics, but I'll hazard some response on some of the issues raised in my response. Government didn't conceal anything. We even gave more. You remember, Leader of Opposition talked about, for example, only 21 fatalities. Government gave all the 56 people who lost their lives. Is that not consistent with a government that wants to account? He didn't talk about injured persons. We revealed that there were people who were injured. Is that consistent with someone who wants to conceal the truth? And I even beg the question of the logic of mentioning only 21 people. Were those only party members of NUP? And the rest didn't matter? Only he can answer. So government, in short, volunteered this information to demonstrate accountability. He didn't mention about the destruction in the riots and those responsible who were arrested, many tried and convicted, others released, and others on bail. That too is accountability. In some, accountability shouldn't be selective. It must be honest and total. On the vehicles, we gave our all, which was sufficient. In particular about the two identifiable ones, we even identified the driver of the police vehicle. Regarding the girl who died, there was no attempt at all to cover up. What better accountability can we give? Fishing communities and related matters of pre-trial detention, explanations were given. In a nutshell, I want to say, Right Honourable Speaker and Honourable Members, that it is the right of any aggrieved person to invoke the many remedies under the law if they are not sufficiently convinced by what government does, like in this instance, our colleagues on the other side. But I want to pledge that we shall continue to fulfill our obligation to address misconduct within law enforcement and security agencies, be they related to some of the hanging issues here or others that may arise. It is our calling and duty to do so to ensure the safety and security of Ugandans. I beg to submit, Right Honourable Speaker. If found true, take appropriate action.
Aware of people detained without trial for more than 2 and 3 years, respectively. He is also aware of the fact that the state has failed to prosecute them. Right Honourable Speaker.
Honourable.
Without being clear on time frames and action, can Parliament debate in generalities?
Honourable Law, let's